My dear friends, have you ever noticed something very interesting? When a seed is planted, it doesn't make noise. It silently goes underground, stays hidden, and works in complete quietness. No announcements, no trumpets. Yet, when the time is right, it breaks through the soil and grows into a mighty tree that everyone can see. The tree never had to declare, "I am growing, look at me." Its success, its fruits, its shade all speak for it. In life, we are often tempted to show off, to prove to others how capable we are, to keep telling the world, "See what I am doing." But real greatness does not come from noise. It comes from consistent effort in silence. Just as the sun doesn't have to declare that it is rising, its light automatically speaks. There's a very simple truth. When you quietly focus on your work, success becomes your loudest voice. You don't need to argue with critics. You don't need to fight for recognition. You don't need to seek validation from others. Success itself will stand as your witness. Think of water. When it flows calmly, it nourishes fields and quenches thirst. When it makes noise as a storm, it only creates destruction. In the same way, our lives should be calm, steady, and purposeful. And remember, silence is not weakness. Silence is strength. Silence is not about doing nothing. It's about doing the right things with focus, without wasting energy on unnecessary noise. So, my friends, work quietly on your dreams. Keep your intentions pure, and let success announce your name to the world. Because when success speaks, no one can deny it. Have you ever observed how a seed transforms into a tree? It's a fascinating journey if we pause and think about it. When a seed is placed in the soil, it doesn't immediately jump out and say, "Look at me, I am going to become a giant tree one day." No. It quietly goes beneath the surface, hidden from everyone's eyes. Nobody claps for it, nobody notices it, and in fact, sometimes people may even forget that it was planted. Yet, in that very silence, the seed begins its most powerful work. The seed does not complain about the darkness of the soil. Nor does it worry that people above cannot see its struggle. It does not ask for recognition or applause. It simply stays focused on what it must do: develop strong roots. Roots are never visible, yet they are the most important foundation of a tree. Without deep roots, no tree can withstand storms, no matter how tall it grows. The world only sees the tree when it comes above ground, but what truly sustains it lies quietly beneath. Now, think about our own lives. Many times, when we are working hard, nobody notices. You might be studying late at night, working tirelessly at your job, or practicing a skill again and again. The world may not applaud you at that time. In fact, some people might even question you. Why are you working so hard? Nobody cares. But just like the seed, what matters is not the noise around you, but the quiet effort within you. If you can patiently invest in your roots, your discipline, your skills, your character, Then when the time is right, your success will rise above the ground for everyone to see. A tree does not need to prove that it is growing. It just grows in the same way. We don't need to prove ourselves every single day by shouting about our progress. Silent growth is powerful growth. If you keep nourishing yourself with the water of knowledge, the sunlight of hard work, and the soil of good values, you will naturally blossom into something beautiful. And when you do, people won't need to be convinced of your worth. They will see it in your fruits, your shade, and your presence. Notice something else about a tree. Even after it grows tall, it does not boost. It silently provides shade, silently gives oxygen, silently offers fruits. A tree never makes noise about its contribution. It simply does what it was meant to do. And that is the beauty of silent growth. It is humble yet impactful. So when we look at our lives, the lesson is clear. Don't rush to be seen. Don't rush to be praised. Be like that seed, quietly rooted, silently growing. Because one day, when you stand tall like a tree, people who once ignored you, you will rest under your shade. They will enjoy the fruits of your labor, and they will admire the strength you built in silence. True greatness is not built in the spotlight. It is built in the unseen hours of silence, in the discipline no one notices, in the effort no one claps for. Just like the seed, your silent growth will one day speak louder than any words. Have you ever met someone who spends more time talking about what they will do rather than actually doing it? Sometimes we see people who make big announcements, bold claims, or constant updates about their journey. They want the world to know that they are working hard, that they are on the path to success. But here's the truth. Success is never about how loudly you talk. It is always about the results you produce. Imagine an examination hall. There are two students. One is loudly telling everyone before the exam, I have studied so much, I will surely score the highest. The other student stays quiet, simply focused on the paper in front of him. Now, when the results come out, who do you think truly stands tall? It is not the one who shouted the most, but the one who wrote the best answers. In the same way, in life, it is not our claims, but our performance that makes people respect us. Real success does not need advertising, because results themselves are the biggest advertisement. Think about a perfume bottle. You don't need to shout about its fragrance. Just open the cap and the fragrance fills the room. Success works exactly like that. If you have really achieved something, people will sense it. They will see it in the way you work, the way you carry yourself, the way you contribute. No amount of self-promotion can replace genuine achievement. Sometimes the desire to prove ourselves makes us waste precious energy. We argue with critics. We post about every small step. We constantly look for validation. But success is not about convincing others. It is about convincing yourself. that your work is solid. When you are deeply focused on your craft, when you give your best without worrying about recognition, the world will eventually take notice. You won't have to explain yourself because the results will speak. Take the example of an athlete. If he spends all his time talking about how strong he is, how fast he runs, but never trains seriously, then on the day of the race, he will lose. On the other hand, an athlete who quietly trains, who doesn't boast, will let his performance on the track do all the talking. The stopwatch will prove his worth better than his words. This is why wise people say, don't tell people your plans, show them your results. Talking too much creates pressure because then you have to match your words with your performance. But when you stay silent and focused, you have nothing to prove, only something to deliver. And that delivery, your results, is what inspires people. In the end, success is never measured by how many promises you make, but by how many promises you fulfill. It's not the noise you create, but the impact you leave behind. People remember the builder not saying he will construct a house, but for the house that stands there for years. They don't admire the singer for saying she has a beautiful voice, but for the song that touches their hearts. They don't respect the leader for speeches, but for the change they bring in people's lives. So let us remember, results are the only true voice of success. If we spend our energy doing the work will do the talking. When results arrive, they are louder than any advertisement, stronger than any words, and more convincing than any self-promotion. In life, people often get excited and make loud promises. Someone may say, from tomorrow, I will wake up at 5 a.m. every single day, or I will work out for 3 hours daily, or I will completely change myself in 1 week. The words are big, but the real question is, can they sustain it? Because success never comes from loud announcements. It comes from small, consistent actions taken quietly every single day. Think about a dripping tap. A single drop of water may not seem powerful, but when it keeps dripping on a stone for months and years, even the hardest rock will slowly be carved, not because the drop was heavy or noisy, but because it was consistent. In the same way, credibility in life is not built by making a loud claim once, but by silently repeating disciplined actions over and over until results show. Let's look at the example of trust. Suppose someone says, you can trust me, but then when responsibility comes, they don't show up. Their words lose value. On the other hand, someone who never loudly says, trust me, but is always there whenever you need them, what happens? Their credibility naturally grows. People begin to rely on them, not because of what they said, but because of what they consistently did. The same applies to our personal growth. Consistency is the hidden ingredient that turns ordinary people into extraordinary performers. A person who reads 10 pages a day may not look impressive at first, but in 1 year, they would have read over 3,000 pages. That's several books silently absorbed, without noise, without boasting. The loud person may claim, I will read 50 books this year, but after 2 weeks, they give up. In the end, it is not the big claim that builds credibility, it is the quiet action that does. Another beautiful example is found in relationships. Imagine a friend who loudly proclaims, I will always be there for you, no matter what happens. But when challenges come, they disappear, their words lose weight. Compare that with a friend who never makes such dramatic claims, but is silently present whenever you need them. That consistency builds a bond of trust far stronger than words. In professional life too, this principle is powerful. Think of a colleague who constantly boasts, I am the best, I will finish this project faster than anyone. But when the deadline comes, they struggle. Meanwhile, another colleague quietly works every day, doesn't make noise, but consistently delivers quality. Who earns credibility? The one who stays steady in silence. Eventually, people respect actions more than words. It is easy to shine brightly for 1 day. It is harder to glow steadily for years. A candle can flare up suddenly but burn out quickly. The sun, however, rises every day without fail, and because of that consistency, life depends on it. That is why we look up to people who are steady, not just loud. Consistency in silence builds credibility because it doesn't need validation. It is self-driven, self-disciplined, and self-sustained. Over time, people begin to trust not your words, but your rhythm, your reliability, your results. And that trust is more valuable than any big claim you can ever make. Every morning, the sun rises. It does not need to post an update. It does not need to shout, here I come. It simply appears, and its presence speaks louder than any announcement could. The darkness of the night disappears, birds begin to sing, flowers open up, and life begins to move again. The sun's arrival proves its power, not through words, but through impact. Now, think about how this applies to us. In life, genuine achievement never needs to advertise itself. Just as the sun does not announce its rising, a person who has worked hard and achieved something real doesn't have to convince others. The results become so visible that people can't ignore them. Imagine an artist who spends years perfecting their craft in silence. They don't constantly remind everyone, I am working on my art. They simply focus on creation. And then, when their masterpiece is revealed, people are stunned. The work speaks for itself. They didn't have to scream for recognition. The beauty of their achievement naturally drew admiration. The truth is, many people spend too much time seeking attention rather than building substance. They want to be noticed before they have truly built something worth noticing. But real growth is silent. Real progress happens when no one is watching. And when the time comes, the results speak more convincingly than any words ever could. Think about the sun again. No matter how much darkness there is, even the thickest night cannot stop the sunrise. Similarly, genuine achievement cannot be hidden. If you have put in real effort, if you have created real value, if you have built real strength, sooner or later it will shine through. You don't have to beg for recognition because truth has a way of revealing itself. The most respected people in history are not remembered for loud self-promotion, but for the work they left behind. Scientists who discovered great inventions, writers who penned timeless books, leaders who transformed societies, they didn't need to constantly declare their greatness. Their achievements, like the rising sun, became impossible to ignore. There is also a beautiful humility in this approach. The sun rises every morning, but never boasts about yesterday's sunrise. It simply does its duty again today. In the same way, genuine achievers don't rest on past accomplishments or keep reminding others of their greatness. They continue to grow, to serve, to contribute, quietly, consistently, with humility. And here's something very important. When you focus on genuine achievement, you gain respect, not just attention. Attention fades quickly. Today, people may notice you. Tomorrow, they may forget. But respect earned through silent and consistent achievement stays for a lifetime. People remember your impact long after you're gone, just like we always remember the warmth of the sun even after it sets. So, if you want your life to speak, don't waste energy on noise. Don't waste energy proving yourself to every critic. Be like the sun, do your work, rise steadily, bring light into people's lives, and let your achievements shine on their own. Have you noticed how much time people spend trying to prove themselves through arguments? Someone says, "I am right, you are wrong," and then the debate begins. Hours pass, energy is wasted, and at the end, nothing changes. But here is the reality. Arguments may win you a moment, but actions win you a lifetime. People may forget your words, but they will never forget your deeds. Take the example of a workplace. Imagine two colleagues. One is always busy explaining how hardworking he is, how much effort he puts in, and how the boss should recognize his dedication. The other stays quiet, avoids arguments, and simply delivers results before every deadline. Over time, who do you think earns the real respect? It's not the one who argued the most, but the one whose work spoke loud enough without a single word. There is an old saying, "Don't tell me what you will do, show me," because action has a silent power that arguments can never match. Words can be twisted, but results cannot be denied. If you spend time in endless discussions, you only create noise. But if you spend that same energy in meaningful action, the impact becomes undeniable. Think about the life of inventors. When the Wright brothers were working on building the first airplane, many people laughed at them. Critics argued that humans would never fly. If the Wright brothers had wasted their time fighting back with words, they might have lost their focus. Instead, they chose action. They built, they experimented, they failed, and they tried again. And one day, when their plane finally lifted off the ground, all arguments ended. Nobody could deny the evidence. Their achievement spoke louder than the voices of critics. Even in relationships, this principle is true. You can argue with someone all day, saying, "I love you, I care for you, I respect you." But if your actions don't match your words, the argument has no meaning. On the other hand, when you consistently show kindness, patience, and understanding, you don't need to argue at all. Your actions prove your love more strongly than any words could. Another way to see this is through leaders. A true leader does not spend time trying to prove to people that they are a leader. They lead through their actions, by example, by sacrifice, by responsibility. Arguments may win applause for a moment, but actions win trust forever. People may clap for a clever argument, but they follow the one whose deeds make a difference. It's also worth remembering that arguments are often driven by ego, while actions are driven by purpose. When ego guides us, we want to win in the moment. But when purpose guides us, we focus on long-term results. Ego creates noise, purpose creates impact. History has shown that the people who made the greatest contributions to the world were not the best arguers, but the best doers. They didn't waste time convincing the world. They let their work convince everyone. Arguments fade, but the legacy of action remains. So instead of asking, "How do I prove myself?" the better question is, "What action can I take that speaks for itself?" Because when you act, when you deliver, when you create results, there is no need to argue. Action is the loudest voice, the clearest proof, and the most lasting recognition. Many people misunderstand silence. They think silence means weakness, or that being quiet means you cannot respond. But silence is not a sign of weakness at all. In fact, silence is one of the highest forms of strength because it shows control. Anyone can shout, anyone can argue, anyone can react, but it takes real strength to stay calm, composed, and silent when the situation provokes you. Think about a lion in the jungle. The lion does not roar all the time to prove that it is the king. It sits quietly, calmly, even when other animals make noise around it. But the moment the lion decides to act, its presence alone is enough. The silence of the lion is not weakness, it is power under control. In the same way, when we practice silence, it doesn't mean we are helpless. It means we are strong enough to choose when and how to respond. In our daily lives, we encounter situations where people may insult us, challenge us, or try to provoke us. If we react to every word, if we argue back every time, we waste our energy. But when we stay silent, we are not losing the battle. We are conserving our strength. Silence does not mean you don't know what to say. It simply means you are wise enough to know that saying nothing is sometimes more powerful than saying everything. Let's take an example. Imagine a heated argument in the workplace. One person is shouting, losing control, throwing accusations. The other person remains calm and silent, choosing not to be dragged into the chaos. Who looks stronger? Not the one making noise, but the one showing restraint. That silence speaks volumes about their maturity, self-control, and inner power. History also shows us the power of silence. Great leaders and thinkers often use silence as a strength. They did it not to react to every critic. They did not fight every battle with words. Instead, they chose to act, to let their work and their character speak. Silence gave them dignity. Silence gave them respect. There is also a deeper layer to silence. Silence is not just the absence of words, it is the presence of awareness. When you are silent, you listen better, you observe more, you understand deeply. Weakness reacts, strength reflects. Silence gives you the space to respond with wisdom instead of reacting with impulse. Even in personal relationships, silence can be strength. When a loved one is upset and angry, arguing back only creates more distance. But staying silent, listening patiently, and waiting for the right moment to respond can heal the situation. That silence requires courage because ego always wants to fight back. But when love is stronger than ego, silence becomes your strength. It is easy to mistake noise for power. People often believe that the louder voice wins. But look at nature. Earthquakes, storms, and volcanoes make noise, but they also destroy. On the other hand, the silent force of gravity holds the entire universe together. Silence, when controlled, is not weakness. It is the invisible strength that sustains everything. So, when we remain silent, we are not surrendering. We are exercising control over our words, our emotions, and our energy. We are choosing peace over chaos, wisdom over ego, strength over weakness. Silence is not the absence of power. It is the highest expression of it. If you pay close attention, you will notice something interesting about life. Noise attracts attention, but it does not always create value. On the other hand, quiet effort may go unnoticed in the beginning, but it leads to real progress. Noise distracts, while silence builds. Think about a classroom. There is always one student making noise, cracking jokes, trying to get attention. Everyone laughs, everyone notices them. But when the exam results arrive, the student who quietly studied at the back of the class comes out on top. The noisy one attracted attention for a moment, but the silent one created progress for a lifetime. This shows that while noise can entertain, it does not sustain. Quiet effort, though invisible at first, always pays off in the long run. We can see the same truth in nature. Storms make a lot of noise, thunder roars, lightning flashes, and the sky seems to shake. But storms pass quickly, leaving destruction behind. Compare that to a river. It flows silently, steadily, without noise, nourishing fields, quenching thirst, and giving life wherever it goes. Noise creates drama, but silence creates growth. In our personal lives too, noise can be a dangerous distraction. Today's world is filled with it. Social media updates, constant notifications, endless debates, and people trying to show off their lives. The more noise there is, the harder it becomes to focus on what truly matters. Many people confuse being seen with being successful and being heard with being impactful. But visibility does not always equal value. Real progress is often happening quietly behind the scenes, far away from the spotlight. Consider the example of an athlete training for a big competition. If he spends his time boasting about his routines and posting every detail of his training, he may look impressive to the outside world. But another athlete who trains silently, who doesn't waste time making noise, will often perform better when the competition day comes. Why? Because the quiet one invested in action, while the noisy one invested in attention. Progress comes only through effort, not through distraction. Noise also affects our inner world. When the mind is noisy with constant chatter, self-doubt, and comparison, we get distracted from our path. But when the mind becomes quiet, when we focus inward and put steady effort into our goals, we begin to move forward. Inner silence leads to outer progress. Even in business and leadership, we see this truth. Some organizations spend enormous amounts of energy on marketing and self-promotion, but deliver little substance. Others may not make much noise, but they consistently provide value, quality, and service. Over time, people trust the quiet worker more than the noisy talker. Progress is built on silent foundations, not on loud distractions. The irony is that noise may bring short-term attention, but it never lasts. Quiet effort may be ignored at first, but it builds results that cannot be denied. Just as a seed grows underground in silence before becoming a strong tree, our efforts may not be visible in the beginning, but eventually they bear fruit. So the choice is always before us. Do we want to be distracted by noise? Or do we want to invest in quiet progress? One gives us applause for a moment. The other gives us achievement for a lifetime. The truth is simpler noise can entertain, but only silence can build. Water has a very special lesson to teach us. When water flows calmly in rivers and streams, it gives life everywhere it goes. Farmers depend on it to grow crops, animals depend on it to quench the thirst, and we depend on it for survival. Silent, calm, and steady water is nurturing and life-giving. But when water turns into a storm, when it rages with noise and destruction, it sweeps away homes, floods villages, and leaves behind damage. The same element that gives life in silence can cause destruction in noise. In the same way, our lives are like water. When we are calm, controlled, and steady, we become a source of nourishment to others. We create peace within ourselves and spread positivity around us. But when we become noisy, restless, and chaotic, we may cause harm to ourselves, to our relationships, and to the people around us. Calmness brings growth, noise brings destruction. Think about your own experiences. Have you ever met someone who is always loud, restless, and reactive? They may draw attention, but spending time with them feels draining. Now, compare that with someone who is calm, composed, and steady. Just sitting in their presence gives you peace. This is the difference between stormy water and calm water. The noisy storm may look powerful for a moment, but it cannot sustain life. Calm water, though humble and quiet, is far more impactful. Even in nature, the power of calm water is extraordinary. Over centuries, rivers quietly carve valleys and shape landscapes. Without rushing, without shouting, they create some of the most beautiful wonders of the world. Storms may be dramatic, but they are temporary. Rivers, in their silent persistence, create eternal beauty. In our personal growth, this principle is essential. If we live our lives like a storm, always in a hurry, always chasing attention, always restless, we may achieve speed but not depth. We may get noticed, but we won't be remembered. But if we live like calm water, patient, steady, and consistent, we will leave behind nourishment, growth, and a legacy that lasts. This is also true in relationships. Arguments and loud fights are like storms. They create damage. God, even if they end quickly, a calm conversation, however, is like gentle water. It resolves, it heals, it strengthens bonds. Many people mistake shouting for power, but in reality, calmness has more strength. Calm water can break through rock over time, something storms cannot do. In leadership, too, the principle of water is powerful. A leader who behaves like a storm may dominate for a while, but they create fear and instability. A leader who behaves like calm water, on the other hand, builds trust, gives direction, and supports growth. People follow them not out of fear, but out of respect. What makes calm water so effective is that it carries purpose without noise. It knows where it is flowing and it keeps moving steadily. In the same way, when we live with calm focus, our lives flow in the right direction. We don't have to announce our strength. It becomes evident in the life we create around us. So water teaches us a simple lesson. Choose to be calm. Be steady, be purposeful, and let your quiet presence bring life to the world. Storms may make noise, but they pass quickly. Calm water may stay unnoticed at first, but it is the silent force that sustains everything. In life, no matter what you do, there will always be people who doubt you. Some will say you are not capable, some will laugh at your dreams, and some will criticize every step you take. If you listen too much to these voices, you may start to believe them and give up on yourself. But the most powerful way to answer critics and is doubters is not through arguments, not through explanations, but through success. When you succeed, your achievement speaks so loudly that it silences every doubt. Think of Thomas Edison. When he was working on inventing the electric bulb, he failed hundreds of times. People mocked him. Some said, "You are wasting your time." Others laughed, saying, "It is impossible." But Edison did not waste his energy arguing with them. He focused on his work, he kept trying, and eventually he succeeded. That single invention changed the world. Today, nobody remembers the names of his critics. They only remember the man whose success lit up the world. This is the beauty of success. Critics may try to break your confidence, but when you rise above with results, they have nothing left to say. Success is undeniable evidence. Arguments can be challenged, but results cannot. It is like showing someone the sunrise. They may deny your words, but they cannot deny the light in front of their eyes. Even in our daily lives, we see this truth. Imagine a student who is constantly told, "You are weak in studies, you will never score well." If the student spends time arguing back, nothing changes. But if the student silently works hard, prepares well, and then scores top marks, that success becomes the perfect reply. No words are needed. The result itself silences every critic. The same applies in careers. Some people may doubt your abilities at work, question your talent, or underestimate you. Instead of wasting energy trying to convince them, if you focus on your performance, your achievements will do the convincing for you. Recognition comes naturally when results are undeniable. There's also a spiritual strength in choosing silence over argument. When you don't fight with critics, you save your energy for progress. Many times, people who criticize you are not truly interested in your growth. They only want to distract you. If you fall into their trap, you lose focus. But if you stay committed to your path, your success becomes the ultimate answer they cannot ignore. History is full of examples of people who were doubted but proved themselves through achievement. Scientists, leaders, artists, all faced rejection at some point. The world told them no, but their success became a loud "hi yes" that echoed through time. Today we admire them not for their arguments, but for their results. So whenever you face criticism, don't rush to defend yourself. Don't waste energy explaining to those who are determined not to believe in you. Instead, use that energy to improve yourself, to grow, and to achieve. Because once you succeed, you won't need to say a single word. Your success will say everything.